So good afternoon from Hong Kong. My name is Dr. Minos-Athanasios. You can call me Minos. I'm basically a postdoc research fellow from David C. Lam Institute for East and West Studies, Louis Institute in abbreviation from Hong Kong Baptist University. And what I'm going to present today is basically about polarization and targeted misinformation about the USA news coverage. Um, and I'm gonna introduce you a little bit what I try to do in this research, then the methodology, what news outlet I looked, and conclusions. So before I start, I want to tell you that actually this is supposed to be a project that is gonna start the end of June. It's gonna be a part from 2 years from AXA Research Fund, is going to study the Belt and Road Initiative, the environmental impact that it has, the USA water pollution, and also the European wildfires, focusing also a little bit more on Greece because the wildfires that it had. So about the current project, is building on the relevant literature about misinformation and mistrust. Okay, someone will ask why? Because we know that basically the use of misinformation, especially the last around 5, 6 years or a decade, right, is affecting the way democratic regime is working. We have a decline based on misinformation and the way the populist leaders are actually use the game between truth and non-truth, right? So if we take a look, we see that these actors, they basically employ problematic information, right? Some news media the same. Why? To create dominant ideological constructions or narrative that they can shape reality or what is perceived as reality to promote political ambitions. We know that this is causing a lot of trouble in several nations. We have basically a severe democratic decline in several countries around the world, and we start having what, for example, John Keane says, phantom democracy, new despotic regimes, right? Regimes that they seem to be democratic, they use tools from democracy like the elections, but in its core, the way they operate are actually not democracies anymore, right? They pretend to be democracies, but they have an autocratic logic. And the idea is that there is a maintenance of a dominant knowledge that cannot be challenged, right? Whoever tries to challenge that knowledge faces censorship, restrictions, or even mob attacks. And that is happening also in countries in European Union or in the European continent. So the methodology has to do with a form of critical discourse analysis, ideological discourse analysis by Van Dijk. And the question is, what are the question for these, right? The current study that I did, what are the main ideological narratives in the news coverage of the New York Times, Fox News, and Washington Post for water pollution? Once again, I'm focusing exclusively on water pollution. When I refer to ideological constructions, I refer to dramatization when we have overemphasis of particular information or exaggerating particular information, presents the in-group as victim, and they basically promote the in-group as being under threat. We have also fallacies. Fallacies meaning that the arguments that they are used, they seem to be valid, but they are actually false, right? It doesn't make sometimes sense what they try to do, they say, but they have a connection with emotional aspect to make the audience believe what is promoted out there. And of course, the umbrella that covers everything is the positive representation of the in-group versus the out-group. I'm going to talk in the coming slide about what I found is the in-group and the out-group. Basically, we versus them, right? Us versus them. So the sample size, I analyzed the Washington Post, is the third largest newspaper in the USA. Also, it's quite important because in the Reuters digital report is one of the most trusted news media in the USA. Also, I thought it's very interesting because it's owned by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has a big say on what is happening, and he is a Trump supporter. I collected 27 articles. Please don't be so judgy on me. I didn't have much time, so I didn't conduct the full study, right? This is one part of the study for the New York Times. Also, again, I chose it because it's one of the most trusted US media and one of the most popular, especially the online version, is pro-Democrats, right? It was supporting Joe Biden, again, 27 articles. So everything to be equal. And then Fox News, I chose that because it's uh, far more important for the Republican side, right? Especially for the Trump administration. We see that they have a coverage that it supports completely Donald Trump and what it does. Again, 27 articles. And the interesting thing that I want to tell you is that unfortunately or fortunately, one of the issues that I had with the study is that out of, I don't remember, 500 or 600 articles that I read, actually only 27 were related from Fox News with the water pollution. It seems that basically Fox News actually don't pay so much attention on environmental news, and I need to try to find another news outlets, to enrich the data, or I don't know, try to find another keyword. So the keyword was water pollution misinformation for all the articles that I collected from all, the news media that I'm talking about. And the idea was to have a diverse view of the news coverage in the USA, right? To have both side from Donald Trump and the Republicans, and also the Democrats. Results. What I found was for the Washington Post in the idea us versus them, it seems that businesses and companies are portrayed as harming the environment as actors, that they keep on promoting deception and misinformation to do what? To gain more profits and keep on destroying the environment. If you see, I have highlighted some sentences, but to be honest with you, I didn't have the time to do a very thorough examination, right? So I picked some of the best examples that I found out there, but there might be even better quotes in the data. The other thing that the Washington Post says, we find that in also the New York Times, right, and also the Fox News in a far more critical manner, is that we have bad governance, like the governance that we have, considering the environment and the water pollution in the United States, doesn't seem to be so successful. So what is happening is that we have also inequality, right? And who is affected by the inequality? Usually black and brown communities, the people that they are more vulnerable. And the other interesting thing that Washington Post says is that Republicans are the ones that they focus on harming the environment, and the Democrats are the ones that they try to protect it. Um, Going to the New York Times, we have a similar viewpoint, right, from the news coverage. We can see that the narratives, the constructions with dramatizations, etc., though in New York Times, actually, we have a milder coverage, a more objective coverage than we had at the Washington Post. We see that once again, the business and the companies are considered, harmful for the environment. The main impact is to keep on polluting than actually protecting, in order to make money. If you see, comparing to Washington Post, here we have more the idea of water management, not so much bad governance, but how the water management is actually being done. And the other thing, like what I said before, is that we have articles, not so many as the Washington Post, that actually attack the Republicans, and they say that they are gonna harm the environmental, agencies, in the United States, they focus a lot on the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, that was promoted more under Joe Biden, and that there is an effort from basically the anti-environmentalists, right, the Republicans, to get rid of it. That happening also under Fox, okay? Under Fox, the coverage was very different, right, than what we had in the other two. We have, if you see Al Gore tell the story, the planet is in a miserable state. So basically, they portray the environmentalists as extremists, that they don't have a clue of what is happening, that they are very extreme, everything is fine, and there are no basically issues. The other interesting thing that Fox emphasizes a lot is the phrase that I found in one of the articles, know the truth. There are many articles that they discuss regarding misinformation. What exactly is the truth? What the Democrats, what the environmentalists promote is actually not the truth, is not the reality. We promote the reality. You need to learn the truth from us, okay? And misinformation seems to be not necessarily something fact-based. It's basically what the others tells you, right? That they are not, it's not correct. So trust us. That's what is labeled as misinformation. And the last thing is that Democrats are extremists, that they are going to harm the country, especially Joe Biden and his administration. They really tried to restrict the companies, implement toxic regulations for water pollution and all these things. And what they do is basically harming the country itself. Conclusions, because I'm running out of time, right? So we see that the Washington Post and the New York Times are not so extreme in the rhetoric, of course, that Fox News is implementing. They use also the us versus them, right? The environmentalists should be more with the Democrats because the other people cannot be trusted. They support the Democrats. They project and they promote that the environment is under threat, especially the water in the United States. It seems, especially for Washington Post, extremely important that the Americans will have issues with tap water, and in the coming years, they will have severe issues in drinking non-polluted water. On the other hand, for Fox News, everything is fine. Environmentalists are extremists, that they destroy the United States of America. The articles use extreme rhetoric and extreme support towards Trump. I remember one opinion article that was saying California needs the golden touch of Donald Trump. Misinformation in all the news outlets except the New York Times. The New York Times actually don't have a lot of stories until the sample that I analyzed about misinformation. Misinformation is labeled as what the other side does not like. So it doesn't mean that actually is fact-based, right? And what I can see throughout the articles is that we have basically severe mistrust in the government and especially the environmental agencies. There are extreme opinions against the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. The Republicans, Fox News, say that it's a really bad agency and we need to get rid of it. That's what Trump is trying to do. At least that's what he announced. And the Democrats say that we must actually promote more restrictions to the environment. So thank you so much for your time. This is my personal website. So whoever wants to contact me, there is a contact form. So you are more than welcome. Thanks again for hearing my presentation.